crisp mountain air of late autumn. It bites, even through layers. John Maxwell knew this air. He knew the Rockies like an old friend, their treacherous beauty, their deceptive calm. He was a seasoned trekker, a man whose solitude was as much a part of him as the weathered lines on his face. It was November 14th. The sun, already low in the sky, cast long blue shadows across the snow-dusted peaks of the Elk Mountains, deep within Colorado. John had spent the day traversing a particularly remote section of the Maroon Bells Snowmass Wilderness area. His destination, a high-altitude plateau, a place he'd often described as untouched by the hand of man. As dusk painted the sky in bruised purples and oranges, John found his spot, a small, level clearing, somewhat sheltered by a cluster of ancient pines. He methodically set up his tent, a sturdy four-season model, bright red against the encroaching gloom. He was a creature of habit and precision, every knot, every stake perfectly placed. He radioed his wife, Sarah, at 5:30 p.m., as was their ritual. He told her the view was breathtaking, the air was cold, and he expected a significant snowstorm overnight. He'd check in again in the morning, around 8 a.m. He climbed into his sleeping bag, the silence of the wilderness settling around him, broken only by the whisper of the wind through the pines. He zipped his tent flap tight, securing the vestibule. Inside, his small world was a beacon of warmth against the rapidly dropping temperatures. He was prepared. He was safe. He was alone. Overnight, the storm arrived as predicted, a furious blizzard that swept down from the high peaks. Whiteout conditions, winds gusting over 60 miles per hour, and heavy snow that piled drifts several feet deep. Sarah, back home, watched the weather reports with a growing knot of anxiety. She knew John was tough, but even the toughest can be overwhelmed by nature's fury. The next morning, the storm slowly began to break. The world was transformed into an ethereal landscape of untouched white. Sarah waited for the 8 a.m. radio call. She waited for 8:15, for 8:30. She called out, her voice crackling into the vast silence of the mountains. Nothing, only the hiss of static. At 9 a.m., her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs, she called the local sheriff's department. John Maxwell, experienced hiker, well-equipped, now overdue. The urgency in her voice was palpable. A search and rescue operation was immediately mobilized, though the still treacherous conditions made immediate deployment impossible. The mountains, it seemed, were not ready to give up their secrets just yet. It took nearly 24 hours for the search and rescue teams to reach the high-altitude plateau John had described. The terrain was brutal, the snow deep, the air thin and sharp. As they crested the final ridge, they spotted it, a splash of bright red against the blinding white. John's tent, standing defiantly against the recent blizzard. Hope surged through the team. He was alive. He had to be. They approached cautiously, calling out his name. The tent stood still, undisturbed, a perfect mound of snow against its sides. No movement, no answer. As they drew closer, a chilling detail became starkly apparent. The tent flap, the main entrance, was zipped shut from the inside. The vestibule was also securely fastened. It looked as if no one had left in a hurry, or at all. They unzipped the outer layer, then the inner. Inside, the tent was a perfectly preserved snapshot of John Maxwell's last known moments. His sleeping bag was unzipped, laid flat, as if he'd simply stepped out. His backpack sat neatly against the far wall, packed. His cooking stove, a small pot, a half-eaten energy bar, all present, all in order. His satellite phone was there, charged, beside his journal. Everything was where it should be. Almost. John Maxwell was gone. The tent was empty. Not a single item out of place to suggest a struggle. No signs of forced entry, no rips in the fabric. It was as if he had simply evaporated. The search team meticulously swept the area surrounding the tent. They found no footprints in the pristine, newly fallen snow. No signs of an animal, no dragging marks, nothing to indicate any living creature had disturbed the site since the blizzard had subsided. It was a blank canvas of white, save for the bright red tent. His heavy winter boots were missing from the vestibule. His waterproof, insulated outer jacket was also gone. But his other layers, his base camp necessities, his carefully organized equipment, all remained. It was as if he'd simply put on his boots and jacket and walked out into the storm, zipping the tent behind him from the inside, leaving no trace in the fresh snow, and then vanished into thin air. The absurdity of it was baffling. The initial theories were, of course, practical: hypothermia, disorientation. But how could a seasoned hiker, dressed for the elements, walk out of a sealed tent into a blizzard and leave absolutely no tracks? And why would he seal the tent behind him if he intended to simply walk off? An animal attack was considered, but there was no blood, no struggle, and again, no tracks leading away. A fall? Even then, there would be some sign, some disturbance in the snow, a direction of travel. Over the following weeks, the search expanded. Drones, cadaver dogs, expert mountaineers. They scoured every crevice, every snowdrift, every hidden gully for miles around. Nothing. Not a single shred of evidence. It was as if John Maxwell had simply ceased to exist the moment he stepped out of that tent. Or perhaps, the moment he didn't step out. Some speculated about a sudden, catastrophic medical event, a heart attack, a stroke, causing him to wander off in a fugue state. But even then, the lack of tracks, the sealed tent, it defied logic. Others whispered of human intervention, an encounter with someone equally remote and dangerous. But for a man to be taken from a sealed tent, high in the mountains, without a struggle, without a sound, without a trace, it stretched the limits of belief. The mountains keep their secrets well. They swallow those who dare to challenge them, sometimes leaving behind only a whisper of what might have been. But John Maxwell's disappearance was different. It wasn't merely a body lost to the elements. It was a man, gone from a seemingly secure space, leaving behind a puzzle so perfectly, chillingly intact. Decades have passed since John Maxwell vanished. The red tent, once a symbol of his preparedness, became a silent monument to the inexplicable. His wife, Sarah, never stopped searching, never stopped wondering. The authorities eventually closed the case, listing it as an unexplained disappearance. But the questions linger, cold and sharp as the mountain air. What happened to John Maxwell? How did he leave a sealed tent without disturbing the pristine snow, without a trace? Did he simply walk away into the raging blizzard, knowing he would not return, meticulously zipping his temporary shelter behind him? Or was something else at play? Something unseen, something ancient, hidden within the vast, indifferent silence of the mountains?